welcome to the third hour of our program. One of my favorite newsletters over on TikTok, I'm looking at the headline here, over on Substack is Sabrina Haake's, Haake Take, Haake, SabrinaHaake.substack.com is the website. And she writes, millions of Americans are influenced by manufactured information campaigns every day. COVID-19 vaccine, climate science, elections, all this kind of stuff. Where is this all coming from? What's going on? How does this media ecosystem work? Sabrina Haake is a federal trial attorney over 20 years, specializing in First and 14th Amendment defenses. She's contributed to numerous law journals and publications, including the Chicago Tribune. As I said, Sabrina Haake, HAAKE.substack.com, or Haake_Sabrina on Twitter. And Sabrina, welcome back to the program. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
So your headline is TikTok disinformation is no more dangerous than Fox News disinformation. Please make your case.
Right. Thanks. Well, I watched the TikTok debate in Congress with interest because part of the concern with TikTok was that China not just had access to user data, which everyone does, all of the platforms have access, but the big interest was their ability to interfere with U.S. elections. And it was kind of hypocritical to me because I was very sensitive to the Fox News Dominion settlement from not even a year ago, where Fox paid almost $800 million and admit that it had been lying all along about the 2020 election. And then, so, we've got all of this concern about China's ability to do that, but we're doing it here. Fox News is doing it. And they are continuing to do it. I have some of the excerpts from the Dominion case, which has not even been settled a year yet. But in today's paper on Fox News, this is their headline. I don't know if you can read it or not, but it says, NBC's ousting of Ronna McDaniel reinforces status as anti-Trump, pro-Biden network. So Fox News is still up to the same tricks. They're claiming that firing Ronna McDaniel is evidence that NBC News is pro-Biden, anti-Trump. But they have admitted that Trump didn't win the 2020 election, that they knew it, and that they aired just the opposite to attract low information voters anyway. Fox News answered the complaint from Dominion, but I'd like to read a couple of excerpts if you have time.
Sure, go for it.
From what Dominion's counsel uncovered. And I've done defamation litigation. They did a brilliant job. They went through and reviewed text messages and emails and internal correspondence and depositions where Fox luminaries told each other what a joke Trump's claims were. They were just buffoonish claims. One of them said that the claims were ludicrous and totally off the rails. That was Tucker Carlson. Sean Hannity said it's effing lunatics. Dana Perino said it's nuts. Fox producer John Fawcett said it was complete BS, talking about Trump's stolen election claims. And Maria Bartiromo said it was kooky. The Raj Shah, the Fox Corporation VP, said it was mind-blowingly nuts. And Brett Baer concluded with there is no evidence of fraud, none. And yet every night they went on the air and said just the opposite. And I want to read you what Tucker Carlson said. He didn't tell people what he told his colleagues, which is that that Trump was totally off the rails. He goes online and I'll read you what his statement was. He puts on his puppy dog face and says, the stolen election was the single greatest crime in American history, with millions of votes stolen in a day. Democracy destroyed, the end of our centuries-old system of government. That's what Tucker Carlson said on the air while he was joking about Trump's stolen election claims in the background. Wow. This is kind of amusing in retrospect, except that we are in serious trouble. Our democracy is in serious peril because 40% of the country is listening to this kind of distorted disinformation from the right, and no one's doing anything about it. The FCC has some teeth, but not enough because we've weakened that statute. Before we were this divided, I think I talked to you about the last time I was on your show. We had the fairness doctrine. For over 50 years, every broadcast network had to give both sides of a political opinion. You couldn't come on and slam Biden or Trump without giving the countervailing facts. The other issue is that if we know what broadcasters are saying, and in this case, Fox News does have a broadcasting license. They're also a network, a platform, but a lot of their news was through the Fox Broadcasting Network. The FCC could go after them. The FCC statute, which has been in existence for some time, requires the quality of public discourse to be protected by outlawing what is known to be disinformation. It's called the Broadcast News Distortion Policy. It only applies to broadcast, but Congress could expand that to include broadcast media. It only applies to serious news. They're not going to go chasing ancillary and unimportant stuff. No one has time for that. And it only applies to intentional lies. We know that Fox intentionally lied about 2020 because Murdoch admitted that they did.
Right.
And the documents attached to Dominion's lawsuit, the evidentiary support for their complaint was legion and well supported. It's public information. This is a publicly filed claim. Unfortunately, Fox did not have to give a public on-air apology and admit that they lied. We know that they did because of the pleadings, but Fox News paid the nearly $800 million settlement, which is unheard of in defamation. That shows you how serious it was and how unimpeachable the evidence was. They paid the penalty, the settlement, and apparently it's cheaper for Fox News to pay that kind of penalty and to continue lying than it is to actually correct their ways and stop lying.
I think they're making over $1 billion a year in profit. And it's the lies that are the basis for their profit, because if they weren't saying something different than everybody else, I mean, this is the cardinal differentiator for the network, is it not?
Exactly. And if people wonder, well, why does 40% of the country think that Trump won the election? And if you look at the Republicans who were voting in the last primaries, it's something like 67% of those Republicans believe that Biden is an illegitimate win. Right. It's because of Fox News. Now, they are not the only purveyors of right-wing misinformation and disinformation, but they are the biggest. They've had the biggest. Fox and Friends has been the biggest show for 22 years, and they've got something like 40% of the American market. So it's unfathomable to me that Congress would look at regulating TikTok when we've got it happening within our own domestic shores, and we're not doing anything about it. Right. I think that if we're going to fix the biggest problems, climate change is a big disinformation funded by big oil, as you know and have discussed repeatedly. COVID vaccinations, and election denial are the three big hitters. If we're going to tackle any of those, and gun control would be the fourth one, but if we're going to tackle these problems, we've got to educate the public. We cannot have a free democracy if people are not educated. And if we've got a major network like Fox News lying to people, deliberately lying to people, telling them that their votes were stolen, that Biden is somehow behind these cases against Trump, which there's no evidence of either. That's another area of liability. We really need to start getting serious about Fox News and start looking at the fairness doctrine, bringing it back, putting teeth with the FCC, and start regulating our own industry before we start going after external industries, because it's hypocritical, and it's also more damaging because it's coming from inside the house.
I agree. The one thing I would add to that is that the echo chamber that amplifies Fox is 1,500 right-wing radio stations, which the majority of which are owned by two companies that are owned by right-wingers. And the part of, and this got blown up in 1996 with Bill Clinton's Telecommunications Act. Prior to 1996, we had ownership rules that said that, an individual or an individual corporation could only own a certain number of radio stations in a certain number of markets, couldn't cross-platform, it couldn't own TV stations or newspapers, things like that. That all got blown up, and in just months after that law was passed, Clear Channel went from being a little tiny network down in the Southeast to owning, I think it might have taken them a year or so, to owning like 1,000 radio stations.
Yeah, right.
So we need to break up these big monopolies as well. But that's kind of a whole separate rant. But I completely agree with you.
No, but it's of a piece. I was on a right-wing radio station, not really right-wing, but a conservative radio station, WJOB, a couple months ago in Northwest Indiana. And when I was talking about bringing back the fairness doctrine, a lot of the pushback was, liberals want the government to tell you what the truth is. That's not what the fairness doctrine was. The fairness doctrine, which kept us from being grossly divided, it was in effect for over 50 years. I just want to read one sentence from the case that was sort of the case law of the time until we got rid of the fairness doctrine in 1987. This was the Red Lion Court, the Supreme Court, said the public's right to full information. This is where you could talk about someone's right to spew disinformation and the harm that it causes and how the government weighs that and how the courts weigh it. The Red Line Court said the public's right to access full information takes priority over the First Amendment concerns of broadcasters. Quote, it is the purpose of the First Amendment to preserve an uninhibited marketplace of ideas in which truth will ultimately prevail, rather than to countenance monopolization of that market. So for over 50 years, the Supreme Court was able to manage the First Amendment concerns of broadcasters with the public's right to know and the public's right to spew disinformation. It's a balancing act. And we've gone so far out of kilter by not monitoring what's happening on the right. We're doing ourselves a gross disservice. So many platforms are trying to, like if you take NBC, ABC, CBS, they're all engaged in what's called performative neutrality, where they're trying to not appear biased. But the right wing is not making any such effort. Right. So we've got people on the left trying to neutralize, and we've got people on the right moving further to the right, and it's taken the media narrative to the right. And I'm sorry, but this headline from Fox News saying that Ronna McDaniel was just a conservative voice that's been silenced because NBC is pro-Biden, anti-Trump. It's a continuation of the same lie that they paid $800 million to settle not even a year ago. And I would like to see Dominion file a complaint with the FCC. I would like the Democratic Party to file a complaint with the FCC.
There's another, we just have about 25 seconds, by the way, before we hit a hard break. There's another lawsuit against Fox from another voting machine company. Do you know the status of that?
Smartmatic. No, it hasn't gotten nearly the airplay. They're at almost $2 billion in damages, though. Right. So I haven't read the pleadings, but I know that it's a strong case, and I expect to see a similar result. I don't know if they did the same groundwork that Dominion did. Their counsel did a brilliant job. Every time that Fox lied, they sent them written proof that it was a lie, and then so they sort of set up the foundation for the claim. Yeah, I get it. Sabrina Haake, get over to Substack and plug in Sabrina Haake, Haake, or sabrinahake.substack.com is the URL. Really appreciate it. And I'm free. If I could be so bold, it's a free Substack. I do the absolutely. There you go. And it's really worth subscribing to. Sabrina, thank you so much. Very sweet. Thank you very much. Thanks for fighting the good fight. You got it.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's 18 minutes past the hour. Geeky science. How can sleep age you? And your calls right after this.